This episode is in collaboration with Delhi Design Festival Conference organized by USID Foundation from 23rd to 25th of Feb at the Indian Habitat Center, New Delhi. Be a part of engaging conversations around design, cities, and citizens. Witness how design can manifest in smart cities and deliver a sustainable urban experience to its citizens. For more details, link also given in the description below. Stay tuned for Delhi Design Festival 23rd to 25th of Feb, Indian Habitat Center, New Delhi. And now today's show.
Welcome to Audio Gyaan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
Today's Audio Gyan is one of the few gratifying interviews done so far. I'm pleased to have Professor Mahendra Patel with us. Mahendra sir retired as a senior faculty member from National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, after his long journey of 39 years of teaching students. That's almost 4 generations of mentoring young talent. He studied at MSU Baroda at NID, followed by a degree in advanced graphic design at School of Design Basel, Switzerland. In 1971, he went to work on type design projects at Frutiger, Paris. He has worked on type design development projects in Devanagari, Tamil, Bengali, Gujarati, Kannada, Malayalam, and Tamil scripts, and now plans to work on matching font design families across all 9 major Indian scripts. He was awarded the Gutenberg Award for the year 2010 by the International Gutenberg Society, Germany. This award is instituted in 1968 to recognize outstanding artistic, technical, and scientific attainments in the art of printing. There have been only just 17 awardees so far, and Mahendra Patel is one of them. This award is given to him for his recognition in the work of the type design development in Indian scripts and maps and signage design systems for several cities. Now, given my background and some rudimentary knowledge about design, typography, and fonts, I'll be asking some basic yet hopefully insightful questions on font, typeface, typography, font authors, and more as we go along. Hello, sir. Welcome to Audio Gyan, and thanks for giving us your time.
Oh, I'm also pleased to be on your show.
No, sir. It's an honor to have you actually. Yeah. So the first thing which I wanted to ask you is, what is a font? What is the difference between font family and a typeface?
Okay, basically, what is the difference between font and typeface? Typeface is an old technology of a hot metal before computer came in, where we used to cast type and assemble casted letter from together to make a text. Now, individual people have their own style, so it's separate. So that is called a typeface, like I am different than Keda. So individual identity of a type is called a typeface. In early typeface was also casted in different sizes and things. So whole typeface would be casted in different size. While in font, now it is digital. So font is designed in an outline format to be as a data for a computer. And same thing, font is also known by individual name. And then sometimes name is relevant, sometimes name is not relevant. For example, if you say Futura, it means somebody has designed a font which will be for future. Or Helvetica, somebody has designed font from Switzerland. Or a name, Baskerville, it means that Baskerville has designed that font, he gave the name. Sometimes people give name like, let's say for the children or what they like. Some people give relevant name, some people give just a name for their own other things. So name has nothing to do with characteristic of font. But nowadays in professional field, people are trying to give a name which indicates somewhat their intention, business, distribution or a use. Font family is a same name, but it is an option user has it. So within the same style, you can select for different uses like emphasis, hierarchy, impact, quote. So different type of colors or different type of text variant within the same style in terms of weight, which is fine, light, normal, bold, black, ultra black, or in terms of width, which is condensed, extra condensed, normal or expanded, or in terms of slant, some people call it upright and italic. So that is called a family. And nowadays also there's a new trend to create a family across styles. So it follows some sort of a general characteristic. This is called a type style. So for example, there are serif style, there are sans serif style, or there is a paint style, and there is a monoline style and decorative style. There are three basic categories. Anybody who designs font, they follow in classical paint format, which paint is generally referred to flat nib paint, whether it is Indian or Western. In Roman, that was quill paint. In India, in North India, we used to use reed paint. In South India, they use quill paint in a different manner than Latin paint. When there is linear paint, means there is no thick and thin, and like a marker when you write, and same thickness is produced. It is called sans serif or monoline, because sans serif says without serif, but Indian language it doesn't have serif. We have zero rekha, and South Indian language it doesn't have even zero rekha. So with India we call it classic paint form or monoline form.
Mm-hmm. But why do these keep evolving? I mean, earlier we probably used to have just serif and sans serif. So now we also have something called as semi-serif or so why, like, how do these font families evolve, or why do they evolve in the first place?
Well, human mind and communication market always in need of change and something new, something different. So it is a fusion between serif and sans serif, and sometimes serif is used as a design element and not as a functional element. So they can create a variant of different identity either in their particular new design or new font or new typeface. That is happening nowadays. Sometimes it is beyond serif, beyond sans serif, they call and they create what they call fancy or decorative style. Basically, any font you design have a two basic function or three basic function. One is readability. Readability is the comfort and ease of reading. Some like your geographic book, history book, which is read from pages to pages. That comfort of reading and not going missing a line or having a taste and reading. So that is called readable text, the reading text. So typeface for there is different. There is something called title cases or display font, which is used for emphasis. Emphasis can be a title, subtitle, even it can be footnote, punchline, posters, signages, all those things. Even names and all would come in display fonts. And something third is categories used is what they call festive, fancy, decorative use for marriage card, for invitations, for fashion house, sort of very expressive, individualistic uses.
Mm-hmm. So in the designer community, at least there's a there's a common thing which where designers say that Comic Sans is a very ugly font. Uh, so yeah, I mean, removing or ignoring the biases, how can one judge or comment or even gauge that which is a good font and which is not? How can one do that?
Actually, font has nothing to do with good or bad. It is its use, how we make it. So if you do appropriate use, comic font, for example, if you use for children and handwriting and individual expressions, it works. So what I would say is font is determined based on what is the use, what is the technology, what is the subject, and who are the users, age group, or their profile. And then that is called typography. What should be appropriate and what should not be appropriate while using the font. Even like whether you use all capital or capital letter or capitalizations, depends on where you use and how do you use it. Because that creates what is called readability and legibility balance. So serif font or classic font, flat nib font, in our case read pen form in Devanagari or Gujarati or Bengali, would be more appropriate for a what you call day-to-day reading, heavy reading text. But even heavy reading text on computer, for example, because it's technology, screen, then thick and thin font get lost, because font readable text is never small, big sizes. They are coming in small sizes. To render that small size with difference of thickness and flow becomes very difficult on a screen because of pixelation. So monoline or sans serif would work better on a mobile or a screen-based computer and all. Now, robotics is a new science and new people, mindset is different. So even on paper, you use sans serif or monoline. Or if you are talking about early Sanskrit and Puran, Mahabharata and all, even on computer byline, it can be serif. Even when we use little readability, it can be larger size. Because readability is not only the thing, you enlarge the size or use appropriate weight, it can be readable. It is like how you manage it. That is called typography.
Mm-hmm. But we have always seen a general trend of like people using a particular font in a given generation. Like for example, like there's a wave where everyone is using sans serif because the digital media is booming, and so there are these different eras where different kinds of fonts are explored, right? But I believe that every font face has a particular emotion. And that needs to be understood to use that in a proper context. So, how does that work? I mean, how can one identify what emotion the font evokes?
There are font on its own is seen as black and white. When we talk about emotion and expression, it is not only black and white. There is a color, there is a size, there is alignment, there is use of capital lower cases, there is a spacing between letters, there is spacing between lines, there is many element tracking. So all those things you work out and you create intended impact or effect or expression of a typeface. For example, when you use sans serif and use a pink color, some what you call feminine, soft or light gray color. If you sans serif and use bold and harsh, let's say steel blue color, gray blue color, then it becomes industrial. It doesn't become soft. So it depends on color also. If you use sans serif and use extra bold or a, let's say, modern type without bracketing, it becomes corporate font.
No, sir. Actually, I'm referring to the inherent font quality itself. I mean, if you compare a Helvetica or an Arial against each other in plain black and white itself, they evoke a different feeling. I mean, one feels like a good, and the other one is probably great. So, what is that difference? I mean, I'm not able to articulate, but you know what I mean, right?
Helvetica and newer typefaces, even though text to some extent, were designed in early time where there was no, it is a first font which is very much driven by construction, graphic construction on vertical and horizontal axis. So it is more drawn font and away from written fonts. There are few letters which are influenced by writing, while Frutiger or Verdana or other fonts, they are influenced by, so they are more what you call graphic but humanistic. They have considered the writing flow and readability as major thing and not only legibility as a major thing while designing. So it is more humanistic graphic. Now there are fonts like Futura, Gilson, all were very early geometric fonts. They are very much geometry, more emphasis than graphic or even humanistic writing. So when, for example, if architect is using for their building, Futura Gilson may go better. If you are using for a signage, newer or a Helvetica would go better because there are only 2 or 3 words you are using. But if you are using for a scientific research paper or a even huge signage system like whole city, then Frutiger would go better because it is not only graphic, it is going to be to all the type of people, thousands of people every day. So it depends on how comfortable you want to make users. That's why you use humanistic graphic font for them. As I told you earlier, anything which is contextually, relevantly, appropriately used become always good. You give me any font, I can make it good typography of it. But there are certain inherent characteristics. You cannot make Futura a text font. After some time you get what you call traced. Or Frutiger or Helvetica, it was earlier as a what you call advertising, display, or few, not a heavy text. But if you have 300 pages with Helvetica, you will get mad. But if you have same thing with Frutiger, you won't, because they have been designed for that purpose. That is inherent characteristic, intended characteristic of a font.
Mm-hmm. But then, apart from like having a theoretical knowledge about all this thing, in the practical world, how can what could be the process of understanding as to pick this font over that, or this font is actually perfect for this kind of a setting or this kind of a design? How can one pick that?
Okay. If you don't know the basic element of typography or a font, best thing would be create a 10-point and 12-point text around 800 words, make your user read it, and study your user's response and preferences, and then you decide on it. This is normally for a text font. For a display font, you have to understand how does it relate and distinguish, emphasize the title or the thing, how does it distinguish, and then are there enough distinguish? Now, the distinguish can be brought by many things, size, capital, lowercase, color, underlining. there are which is called the Hazar typographic, not Hazar, but few 10, 20 typographic tricks which can emphasize or distinguish things. So that requires, if I tell you very frankly, a design sensitivity and also understanding of what you were calling earlier, the type family and type of element of typography, not type family, element also of typography, which is cases, alignment, spacing, which is what is the difference between tracking, kerning, word space, line space, what you call gutter space. The organization also play a big role, which we call grid or a harmony, rhythm, balance, contrast. How does it relate to each other, either to picture or other things? So it is like cooking. When we cook rice, that's not a whole meal. Rice is not a meal. Rice is one of it. When you want to create a meal, typography, type design or a font is one part of it. Rest of them become where you place, what type of, how much spices you put to it, whether you boil, fry, all those things, which is called typography.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty interesting perspective to look at fonts. Sir, we'll slightly change tracks here, and I wanted to ask you why are these font designers called as authors? There are these authors of font, right? So, why are they called authors?
Okay. Now, before came of photo typesetting and computer, it was only hot metal. In hot metal, to design a type, to engrave the type, to make a master matrix and cast, and then cast in particular size would take around 2 to 3 years. So it was, and it requires lots of precision and hand and mechanical skills, including metallurgy, because it includes casting and making matrix to cut. So it was a very, very highly precision and skillful job, more than design. That's why the ownership was very high, and people were very proud to have their own font, printers or foundries, and they were selling it. Even they can't copy it. That's why the authoring and the individual, many early typeface had a name of a person, Baskerville, Garamond, Bodoni, their own name, because they were very proud. The ownership was very strong. With advent of photography, things become little easier because then you draw it, you don't cut it, you don't mold it. So it become little liberal, but still there was a understanding of optic to create a glass matrix or a film matrix which has to go through a light exposure. It was also require high sensitivity of optical understanding and correction. Then came computer. In computer drawing, earlier it was pixel based. Later on it became outline font. And now after Fontographer and Font Lab, it has become very easy to design a font because it's a database. And you can draw directly and very precisely, alignment, size, spacing. You cannot imagine that much precision you can work with, and very easily. It become very user-friendly design tool. Nowadays, many people take the earlier font and redesign it, revise it, and say Bodoni next, Bodoni new, like that. They would give that name with a respect because those fonts were living there for 800 to 1000 years. Now the font doesn't have life more than, let's say, 10 years. Hardly before it gets popular, new font comes. So things, the ownership and the pride of designing an original font is not as much. But there's new thing emerging nowadays, which is called branding. Most of the companies want to have their own brand. Most of the designers, most of the design offices, most of the publishers. So customized fonts would be taking. IBM was the first one. Nowadays, there would be many companies like Vodafone and other multinational, even small companies prefer that they modify fonts and customize fonts. And digital font cannot be copied unless until you create a outline font. So they modify. Nowadays, even copying font, renaming font, pirating font becomes so easy and accessible. So the ownership or name has mild down.
Hmm. Making the font run for like 800 and 1000 years is like a huge achievement. But this especially happened in the Western countries, right? I mean, the Bodoni or the Garamond, these authors designed. At the same time, was there evolution happening, or was there what was the scene in India which was happening in terms of evolution of fonts and font authors?
Yeah, Nina Sagar was the first foundry who created a font, very elegant font for hot metal in India. Then Nina Sagar. And then Monotype took inspiration from it and got a very good Devanagari font. So all earlier font were very much influenced by Nina Sagar font and Monotype font. There are few early efforts, but I think real effort started. The first visible effort was R.K. Joshi's Mangal. That is the breakthrough. In terms of efforts, NID started, but we didn't have good luck to have any font for the public. They designed font for a customized font for exhibitions and all those things. Then latest font I have designed one for linotype, Tika Devanagari, as a respect to my own teacher. I have worked on that. And Girish, after his PhD, has got that Ek Mukta Devanagari. So these are the most popular fonts nowadays and very user-friendly fonts in the market.
Mm-hmm. Sir, I'll slightly get into one technical question, which personally even I wanted an answer for this. Is that if you see a particular font and when you write a word using that font, so there are these sequence of characters which are there in front of you. So mathematically, the distance between the two characters is correct, but sometimes they visually feel off. You know what I mean? The harmony is slightly off, and it is then corrected by the author itself. So why does this happen, and how can one fix this maybe?
Okay. Now with open type, what you call Unicode font and open type font, you can combine even individual fonts differently. So K connecting to Y and K connecting to, let's say, M would be at different position. Now earlier, because we were rigid that half K and M connects it, or half K and Y connect, half K doesn't change. With open type font, you can have conjuncts as many as you want. So that there is anchoring. This font lab has anchoring points, which you can anchor to a right point. So it is all what they call programming thing. A font designer has to understand how programmer works and work this. So in other words, there is a language engineering to construct text out of letter form.
And then, what are the design challenges while designing a Devanagari font or any of the Indian scripts?
Okay. Now, all technical people and all business people, those who have a very good ideas and very good access to society and understanding of society, predicting the needs and all, may not have, they have design understanding, design knowledge, but not necessarily design skill and design sensitivity. There should be consistency. So there is you have to bring harmony in contrasting elements, which requires thorough understanding what contributes to the readability of and what is harmony in seemingly very different letter form. And it is spacing, it is styling, it is alignment, it is stroke treatment, it is joint treatment, all those things which is hidden, and designer take care. So user may not see it, but user would immediately benefit, feel it. The mobile we use, we don't understand what technical people might have selected behind it. Same thing happens on a font. On surface, it look like a G, but people have all that knowledge which contributes to good readable text.
So you are saying, say, suppose G and C, they might look visually very in
Yeah.
harmony, but and in terms of contrast, we need to bring in a lot more.
There has to be recognizability. That is called recognizing differences between character because they have to be different. But when you read, the difference disappears. You read the word, or you don't even when you scan the text or read the text, you don't scan, you don't read, you just scan through. So, it's, so managing spacing, managing form, managing strokes is designing in a manner that it brings harmony into it. Yeah. That requires little training. It's not difficult at all. It requires some sort of dedication and commitment from people. And as type design is easily copied, very few people find it professionally exciting, but it doesn't pay well. People can easily, you design a new font within 2 or 3 people you are lucky who would buy it. Within that, there would be 20 people who would be copying you.
So coming back to the earlier point which we were discussing, that people generally use a serif font and a sans serif. Say for example, one can use Helvetica along with Garamond, right? So what is the science behind using this two different types of font faces, right? I mean, there could be a serif and a sans serif, or a monotype and a Courier, a slab font. So what is the science?
Okay. It depends on how much differentiation and how much hierarchy or emphasis you want to give. So if you want to give a hierarchy which is not very strong but subtle way, sophistication, then you use typographically bold and larger and color, and don't change the font. To make the font bolder, larger, and you add the color in order to distinguish it. If you want further distinguishing, many people go for from capital lowercase to capitalization or all capital. Now, that if that is not enough and you want to have what you call obvious difference, then one would contrast serif with sans serif or sans serif with serif. Now, there is something called text gray. When you see the text columns and pages, you feel certain texture, luster, and gray value, which is over holistic thing. Sometimes some letters, because of a contrast and treatment to the ending, looks little what you call harsh or rough. Some are more smooth. So it depends on what type of texture is pleasing to the eye or required for your text. That can be easily manipulated by using color. Even if it is harsh and you use, let's say, 80% black, it won't bite down. So that's what I, in the before lunch when we discussed, I told you that typography is different than type design.
True. Obviously, it gets intense as you go deeper into the subject. But zooming out a bit, I wanted to ask you, as a concluding question, that what kind of advice can you give for the younger generations, for the aspiring designers to be sensitive to typography? How important typography or understanding of fonts is important in a social context as well? Any suggestions?
Well, let us see whatever we read, see information around us. Almost 80%, 70 to 80% is text-based, either spoken, written, or whatever it is. And more intelligent world we go. So, importance understanding typography and role of typography, and you manipulate or explore it to our need is the greater thing. So, what I was telling you that text would always rule the world. And in order to make a good communication, thorough understanding of what makes the text and what is the role of font and typography would be very important. No doubt, image are very important. But if you notice, photography and illustration are going through the same thing what typography is going through. Now, even mobile can shoot and manipulate images. So the whole world is becoming digital, but still somebody has to grow paddy in order to get rice. Whatever you say. Same thing, you have to have good typeface development matching to today's lifestyle, today's people and mindset. You require modify, create whatever it is. I don't worry about authorship, but you require to create that. So it would come. And more important is typography than type design, because nowadays nobody gives farmer any credit who struggle and create paddy. But we give rice people, India rice and this and that. The branding is becoming very important. Who sells it, who distributes it. So it is more towards message, meaning, communication. But behind all those things, at a hard core would be text. And text would be ruled by written words or screen-based words, which is on the screen. So understanding what behaves better, what reads better on a screen, what works on a paper, requires some sort of a training and sensitivity. And people like me who has been lucky to have all 3 or 4 generation experience can sense it. We can we can live with today's world, but can continue with that sensitivity or contribute to that sensitivity ages back what we got. It's like writing. People don't write anymore by hand so much, but handwriting will never get lost. People keying. It's like calculating. Now you don't have that mathematics where you do tables and all, but still there's a new way of mathematics emerging. But basic logic behind mathematics is much stronger. Same thing should happen with typography. Other thing is for you today, I think they have ample opportunity. If they are clear, that clarity of mind and clarity of choice is very important. And then that comes only if the trust, and today's youth, trust is very difficult. They don't trust anything. So now they have to be sensitive. They have to understand and be sensitive.
So true. So I think that's a good note to end this. Thank you, sir, for giving us your time, and like it was great talking to you. Uh, like I hope we can like we wish to call you again to have more audio GAN sessions in different design disciplines. Thanks a lot.
No, and thanks you also to give me this platform. Probably my future generation get some. Yeah. So, okay. Thank you.
And that's it from today's GAN session with Professor Mahendra Patel. Stay tuned for more GAN on audio GAN next week. Till then, bye.